There are 7 themes which keep coming up in my work with leaders and also in my own personal work of development as a leader. And there are clients, people whom I have been supporting for the last 3 years. And we still talk about these 7 themes. And that is why I wanted to record this video, this masterclass, to share these 7 ideas, to share these 7 themes which I consider are the most fundamental and the most powerful to understand for any leader. If they want to maximize their impact, if they want to maximize their output, the results, if they want to maximize their relationships, their trust, and the amount of time that they have while doing so. The first idea, the first fundamental theme is that going after an impossible or an unreasonable goal is no different than going after an incremental or a linear goal. Right? And let me start by defining what I mean by an impossible or an exponential goal. Right? Linear goal, a linear progress is 10%, 20%, 30% progress. This is like taking one step after the another. And one of the first challenges that I often throw people when they come to work with me is to ask them to dream bigger, is to challenge them even to dream bigger, because it is very difficult to dream big. It is very difficult to dream beyond what you think is possible, to dream beyond what you think is reasonable, and to dream beyond what you think that you are capable of doing. So the first idea is that going after a 200%, a 300%, or even 1,000%, which is 10x of your current results, is not more difficult or harder than going after the incremental, going after the 20%, 30%. And many times, paradoxically, going after a 10x result, going after 1,000% increase in the results that you're producing can actually be easier than going after a 20%, 30% or a 40% increase in the outcomes that you're trying to do. Now that sounds very counterintuitive. That sounds almost like a cliche. That sounds almost like a scam. And there is a reason for that, right? Because exactly that reason, that psychologically we cannot grasp this concept. Human beings are not meant to grasp exponential curves. So for our minds, for our brains, for our psychological systems, this doesn't make sense. But impossible or unreasonable or exponential is just an idea. It's not real. It's just an idea. Now, going for what you think is comfortable, going for what you think is reasonable, is exactly that. It's comfortable, it's reasonable, and that's where the leverage lies. As a leader, your biggest leverage lies in not trying to do what sounds or seems comfortable, but actually in going after what doesn't make sense, what is unreasonable. And it will not appear easy, it will not seem easy, it will not feel easy, but it's not harder. And many times it can also be simpler, it can also be easier. The key power of setting such impossible goals or dreams for yourself is that it forces you to think differently. It forces you not just to think differently, but also to become different, to become a totally new person who is capable of fulfilling such a dream. Right? Incremental results do not force you to change so dramatically, do not force you to grow. And even when you achieve, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of busyness, there's a lot of hard work. But internally, you as a person, as a leader, doesn't have a lot of growth. You don't have a lot of opportunity to grow. Exponential goals, on the other hand, your wildest of dreams will require you to think very differently and will require a totally different kind of leadership, a totally different kind of performance, and even a totally different kind of person to be able to achieve that. There are no impossible dreams. There are no impossible results. There is only impossible leadership, and there is only impossible levels of teamwork, especially when you're talking about groups and teams, when it comes to making the impossible true. The first thing here to understand is that you have to become an impossible version of yourself. to achieve an impossible result or impact. By being the same version of who you are, you cannot achieve or you cannot produce results which are exponentially higher or better than what you have been producing so far. If you keep being who you are, you will end up producing same or similar results in the future. And if that works for you, then perfect, and that's perfect. But if you have a dream, if you want to produce, if you want to go for the unreasonable, the first thing is to understand it's not impossible, it's not unreasonable, it's not more difficult, but what it requires is you to become an impossible version of yourself. If you can step up on a very different plate, the same result which you see as impossible right now becomes possible. Impossibility is not about the outcome, it's about who you are, and when you are working in a team, how and who the team members are and how are they playing together, which will decide whether something is impossible or not. And that is something which is always in your control, and that is something which leads you on a path of growth, which, forget the result, even the growth path itself is worth it. And I often say that the best outcome of chasing any big dream or result is not the dream or the result that you get out of it, but who you become in the process of chasing that. Because you have to become an impossible version of yourself to create that impossible outcome, and who you become in that journey will be so much more valuable, leave alone the result that you produce or do not produce. The real thing to see here is that it's not impossible, it just requires you to step up on a level which is so uncomfortable that you feel better off framing the goal or the outcome as impossible rather than dealing with what you need to deal with to become a better version of yourself, to grow, change and transform yourself to be able to achieve the outcome that you're seeking. To chase a linear goal, you focus on the doing. You focus on what can I do more. Focus on what can I do now. Right? Being is very different. To go after a 10x goal, to go after an impossible outcome, you have to stop focusing on the doing. What are you doing? You have to start focusing on who are you being. You have to become a different version, and then the doing will automatically change. Because if you continue to do more of the same, or if you continue to look for the solution only in doing, you will never find a solution, because the doing more or working harder can only take you to incremental goals, only take you to incremental outcomes and results in your life. A new level of exponential result require a new you to produce it. As I shared earlier, this is beyond the rational mind, right? The rational mind wants to make sense, and this doesn't make sense. And that's why it freaks out and gives you all of these scenarios of why this is bullshit, why this doesn't make sense. That's the rational mind doing its job. But leadership is beyond the rational mind. Leadership is going beyond what is reasonable. Another key to understand here is all the competition is going for the incremental. All your peers are going for the incremental or the 20 or 40 or 60% results. There is hardly anybody going for the moonshots. There is hardly anybody going for the impossible goal, right? If you have an outcome in mind, multiply that by 10 and you will see that there are very few players left at that level. And that's the power, right? That's the power of playing a bigger game, because you eliminate the competition. There is no competition. You stand out. When you are playing the incremental game, you're trying to fit in with thousands, hundreds and millions of people who are trying to do the same. When you take such a big jump, because you become a different person altogether, you stand out. You almost have no competition then. Exponential goals are always specific. They are not vague. They are not about more money. They are not about loads of money. They are not about world-saving impact. They are not about planet-spanning impact. They are very specific. That I want to impact 5 countries. I want to impact or take my product out in these 10 different geographies. I want to shift my revenues to 500% in the next 1 year, right? So they have to be specific in numbers, in time. Anything vague might sound good, but it doesn't get real. It doesn't hit us emotionally. It doesn't push us into action and new forms of thinking until we use numbers. And that's scary. I know that's scary. But that's the point, to trigger those fears. Until you can trigger those fears and discomfort, which is keeping you playing at a small level, you do not have the opportunity to shift, to learn, to transform, and then play at a large level, right? So when I talk about impossible goals, I'm talking about specifics. I'm talking about numbers. And if that number makes you feel uncomfortable or have your rational mind go crazy, then that's exactly the point. So look at your life. Look at whatever that you're trying to achieve. Either increase that number, multiply that number by 10 to see how it appears, how it feels to you, or shrink the timeline by 10x. If you're trying to do something in a year, how about doing that in a quarter? That's the equivalent of 10x of what I am talking about. Make it impossible, make it unreasonable, because that's where the real opportunity lies to transform who you are and your team as leaders. The second key theme and the fundamental principle is that these wildest dreams, these exponential dreams have to matter to you, right? You cannot just come up with a bigger number. Numbers do not motivate people. We are motivated by what we care about. We are motivated by what matters to us. We are motivated by what makes our heart beat. You cannot just pull an unreasonable goal or an outcome out of thin air. You have to care about it deeply. It has to go beyond the rational mind. You have to feel it in your heart, because motivation in the end doesn't come from the number. Motivation, inspiration, team spirit comes from caring so deeply about an issue, about a topic, that you say that why go for an incremental goal? Let's go for something unreasonable. It has to matter. The key point here is that the exponential will appear more difficult, and it will be more difficult emotionally. It is not more difficult objectively, but it will certainly appear more difficult emotionally. We just can't get motivated about something which is difficult emotionally unless we care about it. Right? And this is why there is a huge potential for growth as individuals and also as a team when we talk about exponential or unreasonable outcomes. What you're doing in the process is you're actually trading short-term discomfort for long-term satisfaction and joy, which you get after producing a result which you care about most deeply, right? If you help increase the revenue or the market size of your business by 10 times, but you don't really care about it, you will not have the strength to deal with the short-term discomfort of going through an emotional process of growth to produce that outcome, right? You have to be very honest with yourself. When I talk about exponential results, when I talk about anything is possible or your biggest dreams are possible, people invariably go after something just for the sake of it. But what I'm telling you, a bigger number just for the sake of it is just a scam. Unless you care about it deeply, it has to matter. Honestly, look at what matters to you. What do you care about? And if not, then it's better to choose something else. It's better to not go for that and to go for the unreasonable, at least in some area which deeply matters to you, which you care about. If you don't care about it, then that's not your impossible goal. Do not allow anybody to dictate what you care about and what matters to you. That's a question that only you can answer. What do I love? What do I care about? That's a wonderful question to ask yourself. That's a very bad question to ask others or to let others decide or create an answer for you. And this is the foundation, right? That's why we keep coming back to this idea again and again. This is the foundational stuff. What you care about, whatever goal or outcome that you're seeking, has to be genuine and authentic. You have to make sure that the main thing is something which you care about. If you get excited by numbers, if you get excited by adding a zero after your goal, then you are on the wrong path, right? You have to get excited by the impact, by what will change when the numbers increase. That's the key point. This is why this is the foundation. Nothing will work if it is not genuine and authentic. And one more key distinction, exponential or going after an unreasonable and impossible result is not just about quantity, it's also about quality. Right? You're increasing the quality, you're innovating, you're doing something so differently that the quality shifts 10x, right? The quality becomes impossible. 10x doesn't just mean that my revenues grow 10x. 10x can also mean that my customer experience becomes 100 times better, or the customers are raving about what we are doing, even if the revenue doesn't increase. 10x is as much about the quality as it is about the quantity. If you focus on the qualitative aspects of the impossible or the unreasonable, the quantitative aspects will take care of itself. That's why this is so fundamental. The third main principle, once you have set your impossible goal or outcome, is to stop asking, what should I do? Because that's what most people ask. When you think of a bigger outcome, it's so easy to ask, what should I do? What should I do next? What should I do now? But the third unconventional idea is to actually stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, what am I doing that I must stop doing, which is producing the level of result that I am currently producing. It's so easy to get infatuated by what should I do, a new strategy, a new tactic, a new time management system, and a new of whatever that you do. And it's so difficult to look at what am I currently doing that I must stop doing if I have to produce a different kind of result. Because unless you can look very clearly, very honestly at what are you doing that is producing the current level of result, you cannot produce something better. You will keep on producing the same result if you keep on doing the same things. This is about practice over performance, right? We look at an outcome, we look at the performance that we want, but it's very difficult to look at what are we doing daily, regularly, that we must stop doing to shift our performance, right? Performances are not shifted at the level of performance. Performance is shifted at the level of daily practice. What are you doing and what can you start doing daily that will shift the performance? And the space for doing something new only appears in your calendar, in your time, if you stop doing what is comfortable and what you are already doing and what you have a lot of history, a lot of practice of doing over the years. You cannot achieve the impossible if your time is fully occupied by doing what you have already been doing. So you have to very honestly and objectively look at your calendar. Your calendar will tell you the truth more than what you say. And that's why I often look at people's calendar and I can very easily tell whether their 10x outcome, whether their unreasonable dream is going to happen or not. You want to look at your time and how you are using your time to say, where am I wasting my time, which will never lead me to the exponential result and which will only lead me to more and more of incremental results, which I have been producing so far. And unless you have freedom of time, you cannot have freedom to go after your unreasonable results. It's simply not possible. And this goes much beyond time, right? If you have to achieve the impossible, you also have to prioritize health and your relationships. You cannot ignore or assume that they don't matter. You cannot assume that you will work 16-hour days to produce the impossible outcome and it will not have an impact on your health, on your relationships, and then that in turn has no consequence on the impossible results. This is you becoming an impossible version of yourself. With your time, with your health, with your relationships, so that you are capable of achieving the impossible. So a few questions that you must ask yourself if you want to really get real and honest. The first question is, what are you doing currently that will never lead you to the exponential results that you want? What are you doing currently that will never lead you to the exponential results that you want to create or that you have said that you are committing towards? Second question is, what is it that you're currently doing that will take you away, that will take you backwards from the exponential results that you want to create? What will take you backwards? What is it that you're currently doing that is either actually taking you or will take you backwards? It's very important to identify these areas and actually do something about it. Another question is, who are you being? Who are you being currently? Now focusing on the being, who are you being currently? That is stopping the quality of what you are doing from being the best or from being at a level that is required to achieve the exponential dream. Once again, who are you being? That is stopping the quality of what you are doing from being what is required to produce the impossible goal or dream that you have, right? And the answer to these questions are states of being or behavior, right? So are you being distracted? And is that coming out in the quality of your outcome? Are you being not focused, or are you focused? Are you deliberately practicing? Are you being intentional about your day? Are you playing safe, or are you playing for winning? Are you making small and only incremental asks in your day-to-day, or are you making those big requests? So who are you being that is stopping the quality of your actions, of your results, to be the best that they can be? Another key point to understand here is that you cannot outdo your being. Our doing, everything that we do, all our actions are always flowing from who and what we are being. And you cannot outdo who you are being. If you are being distracted, that distractedness will always have an impact in everything that you do, no matter what you do. If you are being a people pleaser, that people pleasing will always have an impact in whatever that you're doing, whether you're leading a team, whether you are in a negotiation, whether you are in a difficult situation, whether you are in a conflict. And you must match exponential action and exponential results with an exponential shift in who you are being. You have to up-level your state of being if you want your actions to produce a very different kind of results than what you have been producing so far. And being includes your mindset, that includes how focused, how distracted you are, that includes your state of emotions, how happy, how joyful, how frustrated, how angry you are. That includes all of your thinking. Are you judging yourself? Are you being your self-critic? Are you beating yourself up? Are you always looking for the negative? That includes everything that you're thinking. That includes your physical body. Are you tired? Are you exhausted? Are you sleepy? Are you really even here or not? And everything that you are is a state of being. And as I said earlier, your calendar is a wonderful place to look at and to see whether you are going to produce the impossible results or not. Your calendar will always show you what is it that you are unconsciously committed to, rather than being committed to whatever that you say is the impossible dream or outcome that you want to produce. And that's why asking yourself, what should I do, is such a trap. It's so easy a question. What should I do next? What should I do more? It's so easy to ask that question. But what is real difficult and what has real leverage is asking, what should I stop doing? What am I currently doing that is taking me away, or that will never take me to the exponential outcome that I want? Now we are getting very real, right? Now we are getting very direct. It's so easy to talk about impossible goals or exponential dreams as an idea. But now this is where it gets real, right? It only matters if you can actually practice this in every minute, every hour, every day. And then if you can do so, then you do not need more time, more effort, more resources to achieve your 10x goals. So this is not just motivation. This is not just inspiration. This is as real as it gets. The next key theme that we keep coming over and over again in my conversations with the leaders that I support and work with is that future is not a place to go to, but it's actually a place to come from. And once again, this goes against how we normally look at time, is that there is past, there is present, and there is future. And we are here in the present and we are moving towards the future. And we see future as a place to get. What I am trying to say, and this is the key idea which we keep repeating, is that future is not a place to get to, but future is actually a place to come from right now in the present. Right? You say, if we get very real, if we see very objectively, We are always living in the present. We are never not in the now. We are never outside of this moment. Everything that we experience is only happening in this moment. Even the past, which we experience when we talk about the past, is only appearing as memories, as ideas, as thoughts in this present moment. And even the future, that if we envision, if we dream about it, is only being experienced in this moment. Right? So there is no moving from past to the future. That's only an idea. And that's a very reasonable idea, because we only have lived and experienced the past. Right? Because we do not have an experience of the future, there is no way we can reasonably come from the future. But we can unreasonably decide, choose to come from the future, and that's where the leverage lies. To make it more clear, what I'm talking about is that the normal way we look at time, past to the future, is only a mental construct. It's not happening in reality. Right? And after all, if you desire an exponential future, you cannot rely on your past by definition. Right? Your past has produced whatever it has produced till now, and if you rely on the past, you will keep on producing what you have been producing or similar results. To create an exponential future which is totally disconnected from the past, you have to stop doing from the past, stop behaving from the past, and actually start behaving from what this future requires you to do. Right? This is a huge open space of possibilities if you can let go of what you think you know. You cannot rely on the rear view mirror to drive towards the future. You have to look out of the windshield. You have to look out of the area which is unknown, which is uncertain, which is uncomfortable. So if the past and future are only mental constructs, why not flip it around and actually come from the future in the present moment as you take action? I want you to ask yourself two questions, right? And I want to ask you these two questions: that who do you need to be to produce the exponential, the impossible results? Or who will you be after you have produced these exponential results? So you might say, I might be more confident, I might be more secure, I might be more at ease, I might be more at peace when I produce these results. And my challenge, the thought-provoking part here, the unconventional part, is that start being that right now. That you don't have to wait for any result to be at ease, to be at peace, to be more confident, to be more trusting yourself, to believe in what you care about so deeply. You can start doing that right now. Because objectively, there is no difference. It's all here. Everything is happening in the present moment. There is no difference. And obviously, this will sound crazy and this will freak you out, but stay with me. That's the whole point, right? That's the leverage. That's the possibility here, because this is unreasonable. This doesn't make sense. This is not supposed to make sense. And that's where the real power lies. Remember, we talked about being, and that every action, everything that you do comes out of your state of being. And your state of being is always a matter of choice. Your state of being is not about the past. Your state of being is always in the present moment, and it's always about complete choice. It is not dictated by what happens. It is dictated by who you choose to be. And you're already choosing. It's not like you're not choosing. You're always choosing your state of being, either because of the past or the future, but you're unconscious about it. You're not aware about it. It is still your choice, but it's not a choice that you're taking consciously. And that's what I'm inviting you to do, to choose your state of being and your actions based on the future, right? And if you want to choose your state of being, you can always choose it right now. If you want to be happy, then be happy. If you want to be courageous, then be courageous now. Right? Don't say that once I achieve this, then I will be happy. Don't say that once I achieve this, then I will be fearless. Be fearless now. That's always in your choice. If you want to be loving, then be loving now. Don't say that I will be loving when I will have more money or I will have more success. So do not wait for life, circumstances, or even for yourself or other people to be as you want them to be. Do not wait for anything else, because that's living in the past. That's coming from the past. Coming from the future is absolutely free choosing who you need to be. It's not an obligation, it is a choice. It's a free choice. And this doesn't mean that you ignore your past, right? This doesn't mean that you forget the past. This doesn't mean that you do not take lessons from the past. This only means that you used your past only as a lesson or only as a data point to learn, to improve, but you take your current action from who you need to be in the future. This is about practice. This is about actually being and taking that action right now. This is real. This is like your whole body is involved when you come from the future and take that action, because that's not comfortable. You should feel coming from the future, taking action from the future in every cell of your body. That's how it should feel. That's how real it is. The next idea that keep coming back in my conversations with the leaders that I support, and even in my own conversations with my own coach, and I love this and also hate this question, and it's actually a question, and the question is, are you willing to choose responsibility, or are you willing to choose leadership for your improbable, unreasonable, and impossible dream that you have? And this is a key question, and there are some key elements here. Are you willing, right? So the word willing is very important here. And then choosing, are you willing to choose responsibility or leadership? And this can be a difficult thing to choose, because there's a tremendous stickiness and pull towards being a victim, towards not taking 100% responsibility, towards not taking complete responsibility or not choosing responsibility no matter what happens, and not taking responsibility or to blame somebody else for our life not being the way it is so easy. It's all around us. And if you want to do that, you will find friends, you will find companions who will all argue for the same thing. It's not fair, it's not reasonable. And I want to bring it once again to the word choose. And I think that's where it is a choice. Yes, it is not fair. Yes, this is not how it should be. This is not reasonable. But here we are not talking about what is fair or the way things should be, but actually what is required to produce that impossible outcome, if you want it, right? And there is nothing wrong if you say that I don't want it, then that's perfectly fine. Nothing bad about that. But the only thing here is that this is presenting you a choice. Now that presents you a choice, not an easy choice per se, but nevertheless it presents you a choice, and you can choose either way, right? And nothing wrong with being reasonable, nothing wrong with doing what everybody is doing, nothing wrong with following the ideas you keep hearing around you, but you can't produce unrealistic results if you continue to be normal, if you continue to be realistic, and if you continue to be rationalistic. To produce unreasonable results, to produce results which are beyond reason in one way, you have to be willing to be unreasonable. And if you're thinking, why do I have to take responsibility, or why should I take responsibility? You don't have to. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a choice. You can choose to take responsibility, and that will allow you to produce these results which you say that you care about, right? It's as simple as that. And emotionally, this is not easy because your brain is not designed to take 100% responsibility. Your brain's role is not to produce the impossible, not to create an impossible future. Your brain's main function is to keep you safe. The brain's main function is to keep you secure. And as a human species, that's how we have survived for so long, and we have become the most powerful species on the planet, because our brain has been designed to keep us safe through incremental progress. That's how we have evolved. At the same time, that is not what leadership is, right? Your brain is designed to keep you safe, but every moment you have a choice to choose, depending on your dreams, depending on what matters to you, and depending on what unreasonable goals or outcomes you have set for yourself. Your brain has a particular tendency, and that's why doing the reasonable is the normal thing that your brain, that your whole body wants to do. But at the same time, you have a choice. As a leader, you have a choice to choose freely, which will involve going through a process which is difficult emotionally, And that process is called growth. You grow to become a better leader, a better human being, a better person. That process is called growth, but it has to go through that period of being uncomfortable, or making a choice seems uncomfortable or seems difficult, not objectively difficult, but which appears difficult based on your past and based on where you are in your own journey. The next idea is that the future is already happening, right? The only choice we have is that, are we going to let the future unfold the way it has been, which I call the default future. So there will be a default future, right? Time never stops. We are moving with time. So there will be a tomorrow, there will be a next year, there will be a next decade, right? Nobody can stop that. So the future is already going to come. Nobody can change that. The only question is, will that future be a default future? Or will we choose to create the future based on how we want it to happen, based on what matters to us? Right? So I might say, in this area, this doesn't matter to me. So I will just allow the future to unfold whichever way, and I'm okay. And in this area, this matters to me, and the way the future is unfolding doesn't work for me. So I create something. I choose what future do I want to create. And then that becomes the unreasonable place where I operate from. Right? So once again, the key thing here is to see that the future is already happening and you can't stop that. It's going to happen. And if it is already happening, why not choose to create it? You can be at the effect of your subconscious choices. You can be at the effect of the future as it is unfolding, or you can consciously choose the future that you want to see for yourself. That's the only choice, right? The only choice that you have is leaving the future to default, or to choose to create the future that works for you. That's the only choice. You have no other choice. And letting the future unfold without doing proactively anything with it is also a choice. Not choosing is also a choice, which you're always choosing. So if you're always choosing, if the future is always unfolding, why not intervene in matters which you care about, which matters to you, and say that this is the future that I want to make, and then these are the steps, these are the actions that I will take, and this is who I will be, and this is what you choose from a place of freedom, not from a place of sacrifice or obligation. And once again, right, doing this, right, whatever we are talking about is obviously not a guarantee of the future unfolding the way you want it. And that's why I often say that the best outcome of chasing any unreasonable dream, any unreasonable result, any impossible dream is not what you get out of it, but what you become out of it. Right? The future will be whatever it will be, but if you are actively choosing leadership, if you are actively dealing with that discomfort and working on your own inner growth, as you are taking those steps which are coming from the future, even if you're failing, you're massively changing and growing yourself so much that at the end of the process, you will be an entirely different human being. Right? In the end, everything we produce, business, revenue, impact, everything is coming from people. And if we grow as people, everything goes up. Right? So the best outcome is never the tangible, the measurable outcome that you can see on the paper, that you can see objectively. The best outcome is in creating that outcome, how are you growing, or how are you not growing, or how are you deteriorating, right? And that's the best outcome, not what you get out of it, but what you become out of it, right? And impossible results are not possible until we work on ourselves, until people work on themselves to grow internally. That's the key outcome that we are seeking. The last point, the seventh point, is the topic of failure. And the key idea is that failure is not real. Failure is just a story. And there are no failures, there are no mistakes. Failure and mistakes never happen in the present moment, never happen in reality. Failure and mistake only happen when after the fact we reflect over something which happened or which we did or did not do and put a word, put a label called failure or mistake. In the present moment, right, in the flow of time, there are no failures. There are only things you're doing and not doing, and the outcomes they are producing or not producing. And the key thing which stops people from making progress in this path of being unreasonable and going after your unreasonable goal is the question that what if I fail? How do I deal with failure? What if I am not meeting my goals? What if I am not playing up to my potential? The fear of failure stops people from taking action, which is kind of paradoxical, because if you're not even taking action, what is worse, right? If not taking action because of fear, or actually taking action and some of them working, some of them not working. But this is very real, right? Failure has such a big hold on us emotionally that it doesn't allow us to dream big, first of all, and then to act big on those dreams. And I want to repeat this, right? Failure, or the fear of failure, has such a big hold on us emotionally that it doesn't allow us to dream big. And that is why everything that I do starts with dreaming big. It's not that you're not dreaming big because the big dreams are impossible. It's that the big dreams sound impossible or look impossible, and you're not dreaming big because of this invisible hold of fear of failure. So this fear of failure stops us from dreaming big, thinking big, and then acting big. And I know a lot of people thrive on fear of failure, and I've thrived on it because I have seen that as that fear of failure pushing me to take action, and that has given me success in the past. But I want to speak to those like me and a lot of high performers and powerful leaders, I think, can relate to that yes, the fear of failure can also propel you to take action and become successful. But over a long term, there is a huge cost of succeeding that way. There is a huge cost to be driven from that fear of failure rather than the pull of the dream, rather than the pull of the future which you care about, the push of the not wanting to fail. There is a huge cost to that. There is a huge psychological weight to that, right? Feeling the pressure, feeling the stress along the way, what it does to our bodies, what it does to our emotional and mental health, and the amount of loneliness we feel, right? Leadership by definition is a team job. It's not lonely. At the same time, every leader feels lonely because this is the trap we have trapped ourselves in, right? We try to do it alone. We try to not fail and not open up with others. And that's why it becomes a trap, right? And many times people need years of therapy just to overcome the trauma of success or what they had to go through to achieve a particular success at a given point in time. What I am presenting is a very different point of view, that you can go for all the success that you want, right? Or even beyond the success that you have been achieving so far without that psychological weight, without that emotional weight and pressure and loneliness that is normally associated with high performers and leadership. There are no mistakes, there are no failures. The only thing which is happening is learning and iterating and getting better over and over again. Fear and mistakes are once again only mental constructs, not something objective in reality. Just like the past and future are only mental constructs, failure and mistakes are also only mental constructs. There is no such thing objectively out there that I can point and say this is a failure. It is only a mental construct. And if we have created that mental construct, we can actually create something else. We can create it as an opportunity. We can create it as a moment of learning. We can create it as a moment of growth. I think that's a place where we can step in and say that a different kind of leadership is required, where the people who are on that journey do not suffer, and their well-being, their joy, their satisfaction, their meaning, they are still possible. They are even possible even if the journey is tough, or even if you are not getting the results that you want. So we are not saying that this will be easy. Emotionally, it will be hard. Not objectively, but if you take on this journey, emotionally, it will not be easy. It will be forcing you to step out of your comfort zone. But that's not bad, because you are going to create what matters to you, and you will have so much fun. You will have so much growth. You will have so much pride, and you will take so much meaning from this journey, from going after your unreasonable goals, because this matters deeply to you, right? We're not going on this journey just for the sake of it, or just because I tell you to do that or somebody else tells you to do that. You choose your impossible dreams. You choose your impossible goals based on what matters to you, what resonates with you, what speaks to you. And then the one thing which I can promise you that the journey will be worthwhile. It might not be easy, but it will be worthwhile. That's what we are talking about. And you will experience joy, you will experience meaning, you will experience pride, even in those moments which are painful, even in those moments where you're struggling and not producing the results that you know that you deserve. And this is what we are talking about. I want to wrap this up by sharing that unless you are willing to lose your current level of success, you cannot produce the next level of success. And it is always an inner journey before producing the outer results. Who you are needs to grow to produce very different results. Who you are needs to change to produce results which are very different, which are unreasonable from the results that you have been producing so far. Right? And unless you are willing to do so, unless you are willing to fail, you cannot be fully committed to the impossible dream or the outcomes that you care about. And that doesn't mean that you have to lose, but unless you are willing to lose, that's a different. I'm not saying you have to lose your current level of success. What I am saying is that unless you are willing to lose your current level of success, your commitment to the future unreasonable result will also be limited by the same factor that you are unwilling to lose what you have already achieved. Unless you can be fully willing to fail, you cannot fully commit. That is the paradox, right? And if you show up as needy, if you show up as seeking approval or permission from anything or from anybody to be okay with yourself, that will hold you back. That will not allow you to play fully out. It's always an inner journey to be okay, to choose your state of being, to choose where you're coming from. And then that will allow you to act in complete freedom, not because of the circumstances, but despite of the circumstances in each moment and moment by moment. It's always about being first and then choosing to act second and then the results third. You be first and that's a choice, and then you choose to act from that state of being which is coming from the future, not coming from the past, and then you act and that action will produce results. And that's how you uplevel yourself, that's how you grow and also accelerate everything in your life. And that's how you create an impossible life. You increase the quality of the relationships that you have, you increase the amount of time that you have, you increase the amount of satisfaction and joy that you have, and you obviously increase the amount of impact that you create in the world in terms of like how many people have you touched, how much revenue have you produced, or any other metrics that you normally use in the business. And if you are watching and listening till now, then that tells you that you care about something, that you care about something so deeply that there is something, a hidden desire to grow, a hidden desire to change, to go after some of those dreams. And you might not know it yet, you might not know it consciously, but if you're listening, then there is something there which I am speaking to that is listening, that is proof that there is something which you care about. There is a dream which has been on hold. There is a dream, because as human beings, we all have dreams, right? We all want to produce something. Unless we numb ourselves, unless we stop ourselves from looking at those questions, looking at those areas, we all have dreams. So if you are listening and if you are willing to be brave, courageous, and go after your unreasonable dreams, then reach out to me. Send me a message. Tell me about your dreams. What is it that really matters to you? What is it that you really care about? And what is the future that you want to create? Instead of waiting for the default future, because the future is going to happen anyways, and no matter how unreasonable or impossible it sounds, but what is that future that you want to create? And you want to go on that journey of inner growth to become who you need to become to make that future into a reality, into a possibility. So do not be shy. If you're listening to me, write to me, speak to me, and have fun. Thank you for listening. Once again, keep choosing leadership, keep deploying yourself.